I complied and moved them to my backyard, not wanting to make waves. The second issue arose when she claimed my garbage bins were visible from the street for 30 minutes too long after collection. Again, I adjusted my schedule to bring them in earlier, hoping that would be the end of it. But with Patricia Henderson, there was always something else: the color of my mailbox, the bird feeder in my backyard that was apparently attracting undesirable wildlife, the delivery packages that sat on my porch while I was in meetings. Each infraction, no matter how minor, warranted a printed notice in my mailbox, a text message, and occasionally, an in-person visit where she would stand too close and speak in that artificially sweet tone that made my skin crawl. "Marcus, honey, we all have to follow the same rules. It's what keeps our property values high. You understand, don't you? I'm just doing my job as a board member." I maintained my composure through it all, addressing each complaint while trying to minimize interaction. My strategy was working reasonably well until the carport incident. One rainy Tuesday morning, I was on an important video call with clients when I heard a car horn blaring incessantly from my driveway. I tried to ignore it, but after 5 straight minutes, I had to excuse myself from the meeting. When I stepped outside, umbrella in hand, I found Patricia sitting in her white Lexus, parked under my carport, repeatedly pressing the horn while glaring at me through her windshield. I approached cautiously. She rolled down her window just enough to speak but not enough to let raindrops in. "Marcus, you need to move your car. I've been sitting out here getting wet." I blinked in confusion, rain pattering on my umbrella. "I'm sorry, what?" "That's my carport, Patricia." She rolled her eyes. "The street is flooded near my driveway, and I didn't want to risk water damage to my car. Your carport was empty, so I assumed you wouldn't mind if I used it temporarily." I looked over, and indeed, my car was parked in the garage portion of my house because I had been bringing in groceries when the rain started. The carport was temporarily empty, but that didn't make it public parking. "I'm in the middle of an important work call, Patricia, and this is my property. You can't just park here without asking." Her face tightened. "Well, I'm asking now. Just move your car out of the garage so I can pull in there instead. The carport doesn't have walls, and rain is blowing in." The audacity left me momentarily speechless. "No, Patricia, I'm not moving my car. This is my property, and I need you to leave now." She glared at me for a solid 30 seconds before finally shifting into reverse. "I'll be speaking to the board about this. There should be emergency provisions for these situations. You're being very unreasonable, Marcus." As she backed out, she deliberately drove through a puddle that splashed muddy water onto my shoes and pants. That evening, I received an email from the HOA with the subject line, "Proposed Amendment for Community Emergency Vehicle Accommodations," which would require residents with excess parking accommodations to make them available to neighbors during emergency weather events. Patricia was listed as the contact person. I forwarded the email to a lawyer friend who confirmed what I already suspected: they couldn't force me to allow others to park on my property. She helped me draft a firm response to the entire board, not just Patricia, hoping that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The following weekend, I returned home from grocery shopping to find a white Lexus SUV parked in my garage. My actual garage. Not the carport. The door was open, the vehicle was inside, and Patricia was nowhere to be seen. I sat in my car for a moment, trying to process what I was seeing. How had she gotten the garage door open? Then I remembered, during a previous HOA inspection, she had asked for access to check some wiring that was supposedly visible from outside. I had given her the code to the exterior keypad, never thinking she would abuse it. There was a note taped to the interior garage door. "Marcus had to attend an emergency board meeting. My driveway is being resealed today, and I couldn't park on the street because of the construction on Maple. Used your garage since you were out. Thanks for understanding. Pat." I stood there, note in hand, unable to believe the level of entitlement. She had entered my property without permission, used my garage door code without authorization, and left her car in my space with nothing but a casual note, as if we had some prior arrangement. I closed the garage door, went into my house, and changed the code on the keypad. Then I disabled the manual override button inside the house by removing its battery. Finally, I texted Patricia a simple message. I see you've parked in my garage without permission. The code has been changed. Please contact me when you return so we can discuss this breach of privacy. 3 hours later. Marcus, I need to get my car. Please open the garage. I waited 15 minutes before responding. I'm in a meeting. We'll be free in an hour. In the future, please don't enter my property or use my garage without explicit permission. 10 minutes later, my doorbell started ringing. I checked the security camera to see Patricia standing there, repeatedly pressing the button while talking animatedly on her phone. I decided to let her wait a bit longer. When I finally opened the door 30 minutes later, she had worked herself into a state of righteous indignation. Her face was flushed, and she had been pacing on my porch for so long that there were visible tracks in the welcome mat. This is completely unacceptable, she burst out before I could speak. I have been waiting for almost an hour. I have an important appointment, and you've essentially held my vehicle hostage. I could call the police for this. I maintained a calm demeanor, leaning slightly against the doorframe. For what exactly? You entered my property without permission, used a security code that was provided for a specific one-time purpose, and left your vehicle in my private garage without consent. If anyone should be considering calling the authorities, it would be me. It was an emergency. My driveway is being resealed. That's not an emergency, Patricia. That's a scheduled maintenance that you knew about in advance and failed to plan for. You could have asked a friend to drop you off at your meeting or called a ride-sharing service. Just open the garage now. I'm already late. I shook my head. We need to be clear about boundaries first. Do you understand that what you did was inappropriate and a violation of my privacy? She crossed her arms. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Neighbors help each other all the time. Help that is requested and agreed upon? Yes. Not help that is taken without permission. Patricia looked like she might spontaneously combust. Her face had turned a concerning shade of red, and I could almost see the steam coming out of her ears. Fine, she finally hissed through clenched teeth. I should have asked before using your garage. Now will you please open it? It wasn't exactly a heartfelt apology, but it was probably the best I could expect. I nodded and reached for my phone to activate the garage door. And I'll need you to delete the old code from your phone. It won't work anymore, but I want to be sure you don't have it. She reluctantly pulled out her phone, opened her Notes app, and deleted something while showing me the screen. I then opened the garage door via my app. As the door lifted, Patricia marched past me without another word, got into her Lexus, started the engine, and backed out with far more speed than was safe in a residential driveway. I watched as she drove away, tires squealing slightly around the corner. I stood there for a moment, letting out a slow breath as the sound of her car faded into the distance. Shaking my head, I stepped back inside, locked the door behind me, and made a note to double-check all the security settings on my garage door app. If I thought that was the end of it, I was sorely mistaken. The next morning, I found an official-looking envelope from the HOA in my mailbox. Inside was a formal notice of violation citing me for failure to cooperate with emergency parking accommodations. I laughed out loud. She was really pushing her luck. I immediately sent an email to the HOA board, copying Patricia. Dear board members, I received a notice of violation regarding an alleged failure to cooperate with emergency parking accommodations. I would like clarification on the specific policy that was violated, as my understanding is that private property owners are not required to provide parking access to other residents. Additionally, I would like it noted that Patricia Henderson entered my private garage without permission and used a previously shared security code in an unauthorized manner. This was not a minor inconvenience, it was a clear trespassing violation. I expect an official response on this matter and request that my violation notice be rescinded immediately. Furthermore, I ask for confirmation that Patricia Henderson will not misuse HOA authority for personal gain in the future. Thank you. Marcus Stevens ***. I sent the email and waited. It took less than an hour for a reply from one of the board members, not Patricia.
Marcus, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We were unaware of the circumstances surrounding this incident.
The notice of violation was issued at Patricia Henderson's request and did not go through the standard review process.
Consider it rescinded.
We will be discussing appropriate actions regarding the misuse of authority at our next board meeting.
We apologize for any inconvenience. Sincerely, Jonathan Wells, HOA Board Secretary ****. That was more like it.
I didn't hear from Patricia for a few weeks, which was a welcome relief. But of course, she couldn't resist for long. One evening, I returned home from work to find a note taped to my front door.
Marcus,
I believe there was a misunderstanding regarding the previous parking situation. As neighbors, we should work to support one another, not create hostility. I would appreciate a chance to clear the air and discuss how we can prevent similar conflicts in the future. Please join me for coffee at my house this Saturday at 10 a.m.
Patricia ****. I stared at the note for a moment before shaking my head. I wasn't interested in clearing the air. Patricia had proven time and again that she had no regard for boundaries or property rights. Still, I didn't want to completely ignore the opportunity, if only to see what kind of scheme she was brewing. So, Saturday morning at 10 a.m., I knocked on Patricia's door. She greeted me with her usual saccharine smile, ushering me inside. I noticed immediately that she had her HOA binder sitting open on the kitchen table. Marcus, I'm so glad you came. Can I get you some coffee? No, thanks. Let's just get to the point.
Her smile faltered slightly, but she gestured to a chair. I wanted to discuss the possibility of an official shared driveway access agreement between us. Given your extra space and my occasional need for temporary accommodations, I thought we could put something in writing to avoid future misunderstandings. I stared at her, incredulous. You want me to sign an agreement that lets you use my driveway and garage whenever you feel like it? She had the audacity to nod. Of course, within reason. I'd always give you notice. I even drafted a preliminary document, look. She slid a printed agreement across the table. I picked it up and scanned it. Shared driveway access agreement. Homeowner, Marcus Stevens. Agrees to grant temporary access to neighbor, Patricia Henderson, for vehicle storage and parking needs as necessary. Neighbor will notify homeowner at least 24 hours in advance of need for use, unless in case of emergency. Homeowner will not unreasonably deny access if driveway or garage is unoccupied. This agreement is binding until formally rescinded by both parties in writing. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Patricia, there is absolutely no chance I'm agreeing to this. Her expression stiffened. Marcus, I'm trying to be reasonable. This benefits both of us. I folded my arms. How, exactly, does this benefit me? She pursed her lips. Well, for one, it ensures that the HOA doesn't have to get involved in parking disputes. I shook my head. There's no dispute. You're just trying to take advantage of me. The answer is no. Her smile was gone now. I was hoping we could handle this civilly. But if you're going to be difficult, I'll have to escalate things. I arched an eyebrow. Escalate? She sighed dramatically. The HOA has the authority to enforce community-friendly policies. If you refuse to cooperate, I can propose new rules about shared driveway accommodations. It would be easier if you just agreed now. I couldn't help but laugh. Good luck with that, Patricia. You've already been caught abusing your authority once. I doubt the board will support another one of your power plays. She clenched her jaw. Fine. But don't say I didn't try to be reasonable. I stood, pushing the ridiculous agreement back toward her. Have a nice day, Patricia. I walked out without another word. The following week, the HOA held its monthly board meeting. I didn't usually attend, but after Patricia's threats, I decided to sit in and see if she would actually try to push new policies. She did. Toward the end of the meeting, Patricia cleared her throat and presented a proposal for shared emergency parking measures, an eerily familiar concept that would require homeowners with available driveway or garage space to accommodate neighbors when needed. It didn't take long for other board members to shut her down.
Patricia, Jonathan Wells sighed, rubbing his temples. We discussed this after the last issue with Marcus. You cannot force homeowners to share their private property.
But it's for the good of the community, she insisted. Another board member, Susan, shook her head.
No, it's for your personal convenience. We're not entertaining this.
Patricia looked absolutely livid. But she had no support.
The motion was denied.
After the meeting, I made my way past Patricia, who was furiously packing up her things. I leaned in slightly and said, "Told you." She shot me a venomous glare, but she didn't say a word.
From that point forward, she finally left me alone.
I changed my garage code again, just in case.